Wellness Crew, and welcome to today's reading of the 64 Ways Personal Contemplations on the Gene Keys. And if you're like, what is going on? What do you mean? You can always refer back to my past live streams where I've gone over the other gene keys. There's 64 of them. You can definitely get your hologenetic profile at thegenekeys.com. And I highly suggest it. I think it's a really good tool for personal development. And I have just found it to be incredibly helpful for myself. And I think that it could be a very helpful and useful tool for you as well. What I really enjoy about this is the language of these texts that Richard Rudd wrote. And I feel like it's really important the way that we speak to ourselves and the things that we intake and the way that the language that we're using. So that's why I love to share this with people. And if it's something that you enjoy, that's great. If it's not for you, I completely understand. No worries. But hopefully, this is something that will bring you a little bit of peace or a little bit of understanding. It just seems like every week, whichever gene key it is, it just really fits the situation that someone seems to be going through or I seem to be going through. And it's just really funny how that works out. So, gene key 17, the way of far-sightedness. Shadow, opinion. Dilemma, politics. Gift, far-sightedness. Siddhi, omniscience. Programming partner, gene key 18. Codon ring, the ring of humanity. The transformational way of the 17th gene key moves from opinion to omniscience, and it's the way of far-sightedness. It's fascinating how certain gene keys seem to be connected to certain archetypes in our consciousness. In the Gene Keys book, the chapter heading for the 17th gene key is called the I. Immediately we know that it's about how we see the world, and more than that, how we think about the world. In the Venus sequence, we learn about the 3 stages of imprinting in our childhood. The first 7-year cycle, which governs our physicality. The second 7 years, which govern our emotional life. And the third 7 years, from 14 to 21, when our mind develops its primary thought patterns, our psychology. The 17th transformational way is about how the architecture of our mind is built during this last teenage cycle. The shadow is opinion, and those with strong opinions may object to that. What's wrong with having an opinion, we may ask? Why is it a shadow? Well, it's not so much about having an opinion as being trapped and victimized by our opinion. We often think of opinions as our own, as though they define us. We say, "This is my opinion," or "in my opinion." At the shadow frequency, our opinions define and limit us. They aren't who we are because they can change at any moment. The strongest opinions become meshed into a worldview that forms around wound experiences from earlier childhood cycles. They crystallize in our mental consciousness as we try to cope with the world as a teenager. The dilemma brings the other half of the story, and it's the dilemma of politics. By politics, we don't mean the external means of government, but the internal means by which the shadow mind works. And it works by taking sides. It takes on a single monocular limiting view. It does this out of emotional insecurity, and it will even build a whole life around that wound. This leads to division in the world, to left and right, Democratic and Republican, labor and conservative, liberal and traditional. It leads to politics, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual politics. The intellectual mind is all about politics. The political mind is always the defensive mind. It has an investment in feeling safe through its opinion, so when it's challenged, it hardens even further around that wound. Think about the views we hold about the world. Is our view of the world lopsided, or can we look with equanimity? If we're listening to or reading this, then we may be spiritually lopsided. Perhaps we've taken up residence in a spiritual view of the universe. It's an interesting contemplation to do, to look at the opinions we hold, consciously or unconsciously, and see how they trap us. Think about something in your life that concerns you. Is there a should attached to it? Things shouldn't be like this. It may not be comfortable to observe, but our opinion is often the first stage of denial of what is, of the way things actually are. Only when we're able to see through the structure of our opinions and worldview, only then is transformation possible. We think politics is the only way to sort out our differences. We think it's the norm. We even think it's healthy. We think that we have to have one person on one side with an opinion and another on the other side with the opposite opinion. All we really have then is argumentation. When we look at our leaders, they spend most of their time arguing. Don't they look a bit like teenagers arguing with their parents? The thing is, we get stuck with our worldview and carry it out into the world. It becomes who we think we are. And then we have to defend our worldview. Otherwise, who are we? Who are we without our opinions? Let's think about that. It's a good idea to contemplate your life between the ages of 14 and 21 and the opinions you formed during that time about the world. Here's one of mine as an example. I can't be happy unless I pretend. That's an unconscious opinion about the world I carried as a teenager and beyond, until I became aware of it. If we dig in, we'll find these beliefs. Many of us are caught in a net of similar opinions that simply don't serve us anymore. We have to see them to let go of them. We humans are a dichotomy, a dilemma. We're two contrary views. We have two eyes and two hemispheres of the brain. Always, we have two. Well, not always, but most of the time. Because it's so uncomfortable being two, we choose one and let it dominate. And we pretend to feel safer. That's how the political mind works. Logic or intuition. It's one or the other. The 17th shadow has a distinct leaning towards the logical, the scientific, towards the left brain view. I find it hilarious whenever I come across an alleged skeptic. These people often carry the 17th gene key somewhere. They claim skepticism, but they're usually masquerading dogmatists who've already made up their minds. Logic is their God, and they can't accept anything for truth unless there's evidence. The true skeptic, however, is coming from the 17th gift. They don't have a bias at all. They remain open. They're even skeptical of their skepticism. That's my definition of a pure skeptic. They don't have a viewpoint to defend, so will not find any aggressiveness or defensiveness in them. It's rare to find a person who's transcended the dilemma of the political mind. A person who can see both sides of an argument and embrace both logic and intuition equally. We can use the shadow to dig into those places in our minds where we feel the need to defend a viewpoint. We can have a view, of course, but that view doesn't have to define us. As long as we're aware that any single view is not the whole story, then we've freed ourselves from the clutches of the political mind, the opinionated mind, the victim mind. The 17th gift, far-sightedness. We need to understand something fully before we can transcend it. This is what genius is all about. We learn something, then we unlearn it, then we transcend it, but our transcendence includes it. This is what compassion is. The view from the Siddhi. We know what it's like to be opinionated. We understand it in our bones. When we come across it in another, we needn't fight them or react. We can simply let them have their process. We don't have to try to convert them. In fact, we won't be able to. So it's better to forget that path. We also don't have to kill people with kindness. The opinionated person doesn't know what to do with that genuinely loving intelligence. We speak our truth and let our heart shimmer with our truth, but we aren't trying to convert. That's where the power lies. It's the way of non-attachment. The 17th gift is awesome. It's the power of far-sightedness. It's the gift of seeing the matrix, the whole matrix, with all its detail. Once we've seen it, we can never go back to the land of opinion and division. This is the domain of the heart-mind, this gift. We merge the opposites, looking with intuition and intellect, and rise up to a higher level of functioning. The 17th gift is about seeing with our causal body. Our causal body is the subtle equipment that humans have to look at something beyond the mind. The causal plane lies beyond the mental plane. It's the realm of archetypal wisdom. It's not about knowledge. It's about the direct seeing of truth. We perceive truth through our whole body. It's from here that revelations, insights, epiphanies, satoris, breakthroughs arise. Every genius that's ever lived has seen this with his eye. They've lifted themselves up to look at life through wider eyes. Many were not able to live there, but they captured it through their art or science or particular stream of genius. It's why genius is always ahead of its time. It's far-sighted. It sees where we have come from, and it sees where we are going. The gift frequency is always a process. It's the process of dismantling the shadow. As we drop our fixed views and opinions, our cells open us up to this higher mind. The process is like having contractions. A breakthrough occurs, and we have sight of the higher realm, a higher truth that exists beyond the world we see. We see into the interdependent, self-originating cosmos. We see into the hologram. At the beginning, we can't sustain this view through the 17th gift. It can be something of a trial to see that higher view and then return to our normal functioning. But we need gaps and pauses between the contractions. Thank you so much for the like. I really appreciate that. We need them to integrate the truths. It's too much for most of us to see it all at once. We're lowered gently into the ocean, and we have to get used to it. After an epiphany, a powerful charge is rushing through our body, and we feel so powerful. Yet we have to ground that insight into our daily life, so we're given time. When I was a student at university, I used to drive my English tutor mad. I was into meditation, and we were studying the creative imagination and the nature of identity in literature. You can imagine I loved that. I remember once asking our small study group to imagine what it might feel like to look through an eye with 360-degree vision. What would it be like if our eye was just suspended in space and we could see through that? What would the world look like? I used to blow their minds with my ideas. I'm sure they dreaded when I came to the blah, blah, when I came to the tutorials. Jeez. Sometimes I just get stuck on words. This is what it means to see through the eye of wisdom. As I said, the 17th gene key favors the left brain approach, so it can really see into the architecture of life. It sees the fractals and patterns of existence. It sees the synergies of creative evolution. It sees through the heart. The 17th gift knows how to overcome politics and get communities working together. We don't really get anywhere by arguing, disempowering, and jostling for position. We work with each other through empowering, affirming, and listening. This isn't idealistic. This is eminently practical. Efficiency is about working with higher values. We're not children, but we behave like them. In fact, we're much worse than children because we don't have their capacity to let go. Left brain genius is all about mastering technique in order to transcend technique. A left brain musical genius, for example, is very different from a right brain musical genius. The left brain works in hierarchies, levels, sequences. The right brain works illogically and makes quantum leaps, but they both lead to the same place, transcendence. Think about the truly healthy teenage mind. Think about how open it is. Think about how revolutionary it is. Think about how far ahead it sees. Why do you think young adults are so into science fiction? It's the gift of far-sightedness. We all have that gift, regardless of our profiles. The 17th gift is about reclaiming that mind, that causal view, beyond the veil of the world. It's about letting the open heart see through that kind of a mind. It precipitates a creative revolution. Let's open our hearts that wide and then look at life, and we'll see what the 17th gift sees. We'll see the beauty, the magic, and the miracle of the true nature of the dream world in which we live. The 17th Siddhi, omniscience. The 17th Siddhi activates the fullest expression of the pituitary gland. Each of the endocrine glands has a different higher purpose in our biology. The pituitary, operating at its genetic zenith, gives us the experience of the opening of the so-called third eye. It's funny when we think about it, because the third eye isn't really in the forehead between our two eyes. That's just a metaphor. I experienced a third eye opening on a large scale back during my mystical experience when all this first opened in me. Traditionally, we see the third eye between the two eyes because it does indeed represent the transcendence of the dualistic view through our senses. It's the third transcendent view of the whole. In my experience, the third eye is actually at the heart of every single cell in our body. When it opens, our entire body becomes the eye. We open in a way that defies belief. We become the 360-degree eye floating in space-time. And we bring an end to space-time. Little did I know what I was saying back in that tutorial at university all those years ago. My words have come back to haunt me. I think we've all had that experience. The experience of the 17th Siddhi is akin to being seen through rather than seeing. We cease to be, so we ourselves don't see. The cosmos sees itself through us. I imagine it must be something like that when we die. Such a beautiful phenomenon. Nothing whatsoever to fear. The beauty of that cosmic sunset that brings an end to our individuated existence. The 17th Siddhi is rather unusual. I think it may also be rather rare. It's a gift of grace. It's one of the agents of grace. One of the 7 sacred seals spoken of in the 22nd gene key and its beautiful transmission. The 17th Siddhi is one of the siddhis that will bring an end to the sacred wound of denial. It comes to end the second line wound. If you've done part 2 of the Golden Path program, you'll know what I'm talking about. The second line wound is our jewel wound. It's the wound of violence, rage, and pure denial. The only way humans can do some of the deplorable things we've done is because we have the wound of denial. We couldn't live with ourselves otherwise. We can see that at the shadow frequency, there's also a kind of death, but it's the death of conscience or self-responsibility. With the 17th Siddhi comes omniscience. It's a collective phenomenon. Humanity is the eye that we will one day see through. Once that eye opens up in our genome, our racial gene pools, it will change our shadow nature forever. How can we harm another when we realize that they're part of us? How can we harm another when we're feeling so good? The 17th Siddhi is part of the tradition of sudden awakening. When someone sees through their denial, it shatters them wide open to the core. This is St. Paul on the road to Damascus. This is a thunderbolt. When we mutate, we'll mutate swiftly. The 17th gene key acts fast. It's the master of efficiency, remember. One never knows where lightning will strike, so this is one of the most unpredictable places in the human genome. It could transform the human race overnight. My hunch is that this city comes towards the end of our evolution and follows fast on the heels of our heart opening. It'll literally bring an instant end to fighting at all levels, even in children. We know how siblings love to fight and provoke each other, and we parents just wonder at the pain of it. Why do they do that? The sweet little cherubs. It's an interesting way to put it, I think. It's because it's in our DNA. Makes me think of Parks and Recreation, where they put Aziz Ansari on that mural, and he's like a little cherub. That's what this makes me think of. I don't know why that came into my mind, but it did. A new kind of child will come into the world, one with no violence in their system, with no memory even of violence. That's something to contemplate. I want to finish with an image of the 17th city. You know, I like to do that sometimes. Well, in the gene key synthesis, one of the approaches is called the dream art. It's a shamanic way into the matrix of the 64 codons. Every shadow, gift, and city has a totem animal, insect, or bird connected to it. I brought this transmission through a few years back, and it's really an exciting right brain approach. It's also a kind of dream yoga using the gene keys. Anyway, the 17th city is the peregrine falcon. All the cities are birds because they represent the alpha state, the higher consciousness. The falcon is seen by many traditions as a symbol of higher sight. The best known of these is probably the Egyptian tradition, which is where we get the all-seeing omniscient eye of Horus. Horus had the head of a falcon. If you've ever seen a falcon in the hands of a falconer, you will know that they always keep a hood over the bird's head. This is because the eyes of a falcon are a complete marvel of creation. They can see the O in a packet of Marlboro cigarettes from a mile up in the sky, while moving at speeds of up to 200 miles an hour. With the hood on, the falcon is docile, almost in a trance. All its primary awareness systems are on standby, but the moment he removes that hood, my God, that system instantly comes online. Those eyes are connected directly into the bird's central nervous system, so what the eye sees is instantly translated into action, without any additional cognition. When the falcon is released into the air to hunt, it becomes this all-seeing eye connected to a 200-mile-an-hour killing machine. It's no wonder the falcon became the royal bird. It's an awesome creature. The moment those eyes see the prey, the bird is instantly in action. There's no time delay between seeing and acting. I leave you with this image because our future awareness is like that, except instead of being predatory, it's revelatory. There's no time delay between seeing and acting. At the lower frequency, that's the definition of denial. But at the highest frequency, it leads to a world imbued with a living awareness, an all pervasive intelligence that bridges all creatures and all things. It's the omniscience of God spoken of in the Bible. It's our legacy. It's the natural outcome of our evolution. I definitely think that the 17th gene key gives us a lot to think about, especially when it comes to delving into issues regarding denial and issues regarding um, taking the time and taking the opportunity to really look inward. Because a lot of times we don't really want to do the work that it takes to do that, or a lot of times we get so busy, or a lot of times we um, just don't give ourselves the opportunity or the space to look inward and really try to see, okay, what are the patterns that I've, you know, had since I was a child? What are these things that I'm repeating in my life? What are these cycles that I'm constantly doing? And how can I improve upon them or get out of them? So that way I'm not just repeating the same things over and over. Being able to acknowledge it, being able to see it, being able to assess it, that does take contemplation, that does take acknowledgement, it does take learning what they are. And some of these patterns are so incredibly subtle. So I really like how Richard Rudd puts it in the 17th gene key. I think it's something that's really interesting to think about. And especially too when he's talking about politics, about how we tend to kind of, it's almost like playing tennis with ourselves, you know, like we're, one side to one side, just kind of playing tennis with ourselves and um, not really seeing that there is another, side to things, or there's other points of view, and choosing to kind of be able to see things from multiple points of view and not just having that black and white thinking. Um, it's really important in order to be able to access, the healing and stuff that we need in order to move on as adults, to get to a higher place, in order to get to, in woo woo speak, higher frequencies, right? But really just to get to a higher place of healing, a higher place of functioning, a higher place of um, feeling comfortable with yourself, feeling happy with yourself, feeling lighter, freer. And that's why I really enjoy the language, the poetry of how he writes, because I think that it's really interesting. But I do think that sometimes it does need to be broken down. And oftentimes I just kind of do the reading and I'm like, yeah, and then people can think about it. And I don't really put too much, I don't tend to talk too much about my thoughts or breaking it down myself a little bit. So definitely starting today, I want to do that a bit because I think it'll help a little bit as far as understanding goes. But thank you so very much for joining me for today's live stream. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and or join one of the membership tiers as they are popping off with content. And I'll see you on the next video or live stream. Be well, stay wild as well.